The next morning, my parents could not believe I was making them get up at 6 a.m. But rope drop! Did I mention our hotel had a free breakfast buffet every morning? This turned out to be perfect for us. Just like the hotel room, it wasn't anything extravagant, but it saved us at least $20 every day on eating breakfast at a restaurant. We went through our pins and we had bought them on eBay. So my mom, Olivia, and I all took turns picking out one for our collection. Olivia really enjoyed this. After we finished, we headed out. But what park were we going to for our first day? We were headed to Magic Kingdom, of course. We parked in Simba 11, just a few spots up from the tram stop. We parked and made sure we had all our necessities: diaper bag, autograph book, tickets, snacks, and drinks. We loaded up the stroller and went to wait for the tram. I don't remember waiting too long before we piled in. Then we got to the ticketing and transportation center. We unloaded the tram and went back and forth for a few minutes about whether to take a monorail or the ferry. We decided on the monorail and started up the hill. I thought it was so rude that people were pushing their huge double strollers right into the monorail. We got the kids out and folded up our stroller just to make room for everybody. We learned the error of our ways when we saw that everybody just pushed their kids into the monorail. So we ended up doing the same. It really was a huge headache to get the kids out and all our bags out and fold it up each time. We arrived at the Magic Kingdom gates at about 9:15. We missed rope drop, but I was just happy to be there at all. I had prepared myself so much for this trip. But what I was not prepared for was what I encountered walking into Magic Kingdom. There's Snow White. There's Marie the cat. Look at the horse. I was pulled in so many directions all at once. It was so overwhelming. First things first, though, we needed to get Olivia's birthday button. Photo pass photographer. We had bought into a photo pass share, so we needed to get a photo pass card. We asked him if he would take our picture. Sure, he said. So we went and sat down on the bench decorated for Christmas and waited for him to snap a pic. And waited and waited. Is he going to take our pic? The guy was just standing there with his back to us, leaning out into the crowd. I guess not. And at that, he turned around and said, "Do you want your picture?" And I said, yes. And he said, "Well, you didn't ask." Okay, so we finally did get our first PhotoPass picture of the trip. Once we got Olivia's birthday button, we continued taking some more pictures in the midst of all the madness of Main Street. And then I turned the corner, and there was Cinderella Castle. And cue the waterworks. Cinderella Castle is seriously the most beautiful sight. We thought we might get in line for Snow White. The line seemed short enough, so we walked towards City Hall. We got in line and were told that we would start the 10 o'clock line. So with it being just after 9:30, I didn't want to spend my first hour in Magic Kingdom waiting in line. So we decided to move on. My dad had disappeared, so my mom told us to go on without them, or they would catch up with us. We made our way around the castle toward Fantasyland. We came upon the Mad Tea Party. We were so excited. Orinthius told me to go on with Olivia and he would park the car. Not the car. He would park the stroller. So off we ran. We rode twice in a row, and that may have been a little bit too much fun at first. O and I were a tad bit dizzy, but it was time to go to Storybook Circus. There was nobody in line for Dumbo, and the cast member asked if we wanted to play in the queue or just take a ride. Ride, baby, ride. My parents showed up at Dumbo just in time for us to take flight. They bought Olivia her first set of Mickey ears, too. And of course, they were princess themed. After that ride, we made our way to Big Top Treats. Olivia had a little mini meltdown in the shop because she wanted a mini doll. And I knew my mom had already bought her one from Disney's website. It just hadn't arrived yet. So I tried my best to talk her out of it. I eventually just had to tell her no. We walked outside and my dad had bought me a Mickey pin. I mentioned I wanted to look for the Nerd line of pins. I'm not sure what the actual title is, but it's the ones where the Fab Five are all wearing glasses. They are so cute. We handed Carter off to my parents for a few minutes. Olivia and I headed to the Barnstormer. I had heard this was a best coaster for Olivia's first, quote, thrill ride. She loved it. She was giggling the entire time. This is such the cutest little coaster. I wish we would have had time to ride it again this trip, but we didn't even make it back to Storybook Circus. There was just so much to do in 1 week. New Fantasyland had just opened and was on my top 3 list of things to see in the entire Walt Disney World Resort. I was super excited and I knew that Olivia would love it. It is just beautiful. We wanted to ride Under the Sea, The Little Mermaid, but it was temporarily closed. We must have circled back at some point though, because I do have pictures of it. We also did a meet and greet. The line was really long. It was about 45 minutes. So we left Carter, who was napping, in the stroller with my dad, and we were all so impressed with this meet and greet. I loved how they stop you before you enter the room so that when you turn the corner, bam, there's Ariel in her grotto. It feels like you're really there. And you have the whole room to yourself. We didn't feel rushed or anything. Ariel saw Olivia's birthday button and asked her if she was having seaweed cake and ice cream for dessert. My favorite part about meet and greets at Disney World is the characters who stay in character and have a whole conversation about things that are in their world, like seaweed birthday cake. It was getting close to our 1:10 reservation for lunch at Kona. I knew we had to leave the park and hit the monorail or ferry boats to the Polynesian, so I wanted to leave plenty of time. It was nearing 12 o'clock, so we headed out of the park. As we left Fantasyland, rounded the castle, and we saw the fairy godmother. She must have just gotten there because there were only 2 families in line. We couldn't pass this up. She was just so lovely. We decided to take the ferry boat over to the Polynesian. It was a beautiful ride. We wound our way up to Kona, which was pretty easy to find. Once we checked in, it wasn't a long wait. Again, I was very surprised at the size of the restaurant. It was so small. I guess this is why reservations are snatched up so fast at Disney World. Our server was very talkative and nice. I can't remember her name, sadly, but if I remember correctly, she was also from North Carolina, which is where we lived at the time. We started off with an appetizer of sticky wings. I could have eaten the entire plate of these and then licked the sauce clean. They were so delicious. Everybody loved them. And then my dad said, "Yeah, they were okay." Way to spoil everyone's Disney food high, Dad. Everybody else wanted to lick the plate clean too. For our entrees, my dad had the turkey sandwich. My mom and I both had the Polynesian plate with chicken. It was also served with sticky rice and macaroni salad. Oh my word, this was so delicious. The coconut mango sauce was so good, and my chicken was crunchy outside and juicy inside. The sticky rice had just the right amount of stick to it. I had no complaints about this dish. Orinthius had the Big Island barbecue pork tacos served in a house-made shell with pasta salad and smoky bacon slaw. He loved it also. I had a bite and thought it was very good as well. Of course, we all decided to order dessert as well. It didn't help that the first thing you walk by while being seated at the restaurant is the dessert station. The chef told Orinthius to get the banana chocolate creme brulee. So, and I split that. My mom ordered one as well. This has to be the best dessert ever. I could actually go for one or two right now. We ended up going back to the hotel for the afternoon. We all needed a nap after our first Disney park and food experience. After we all rested, we got up and ready again and were headed back to Magic Kingdom for the nighttime festivities. We were pushing it on time, so I was hurrying everyone along. It was really aggravating to have to park, take a tram to the TTC, and then take a monorail to the Magic Kingdom, and then go through the gates. We finally got to Magic Kingdom. We missed the show, but we got to see them light the castle up. It was weird at first because there was a section of the castle that wasn't lit, but eventually they all got lit. The parade was getting started, and Olivia was upset that she couldn't see it, so my dad put her on his shoulders. Anything for his granddaughter. We all loved the electrical parade so much. Tinkerbell was first, and I think I loved her float the most, but Cinderella's was very emotional for me to see her and Prince in the pumpkin carriage. You couldn't slap the smile off of Olivia's face. Not only did my spoiled Olivia get the huge lollipop and expensive balloons, but she also got a glow-in-the-dark wand. I had actually bought this at the Dollar Tree before our trip. That is a favorite tip of mine, to buy souvenirs before you go. It was pretty difficult to move up Main Street after the parade because it was still blocked off and people were still standing on the sidewalk. Some parts were only one way, so we had to wind around a bit to find a good spot for Celebrate the Magic and Wishes. Side note, rest in peace, Wishes. We found a pretty good spot outside of Casey's. I had heard a tip to stand to the side a bit since some of the fireworks were let off behind the castle, so I was so happy with our spot. We got out the glow-in-the-dark bracelets that I bought at Target beforehand. I gave a bunch to Olivia and I handed some out to the kids nearby. When I turned back around, somebody had taken my spot. So much for doing a good deed. We ended up changing the castle. We enjoyed the castle changing lights for a while. All of them were so beautiful. Every time the color changed, we would say, "Ooh, look at that. Oh, now look at it." So after Wishes was over and I composed my emotional self, we slowly made our way out of the crowd that was Magic Kingdom. We walked toward Liberty Square. Haunted Mansion was one of my must-do rides for Magic Kingdom, so that is where we were headed. And spoiler alert, it ended up being my favorite ride. When we got there, we met a huge group of teenage cheerleaders that were filing into the queue. Oh, great. I could just see the wait time creeping up in my head. My dad didn't want to ride, so he kept Carter while the rest of us got in line. Olivia was a little apprehensive, but I kept telling her it was more funny than scary. I didn't want to feed into her fears, but as soon as we turned to go into the room where you see the eyes floating around, she covered her face with her hands, buried it in my side. She never looked up again through the entire ride. Once we got out to the dining room scene, the ride stopped. What the heck? We were stuck there for about 10 minutes. I snapped pictures like crazy though. I hate that they're blurry, so I didn't show any here, but that's what you get when you photograph ghosts. After the ride was over, Olivia looked at my mom and said, "Grandma, I didn't see anything because my hands covered my face the whole time." So we met back up with my dad and asked ever so sweetly if they wanted to watch the kids so we could ride Space Mountain. And we did. It was awesome. Love that ride. We walked back through Tomorrowland to go meet up with my parents. They had found a comfy spot to sit and enjoy the second parade of the night. Olivia enjoyed dancing to the music. After the parade, we took the monorail and the tram back to our cars. We were trying to decide what to do for dinner since we hadn't had anything substantial since Kona. I'm sure we got some kind of fast food on the way back to the hotel, but I can't remember what it was. So this was our first full day in Disney World. Some closing thoughts from the beginning of our trip. I am so glad I decided to change our first day from Epcot to Magic Kingdom. I felt like we got so much done this day, and Olivia was amazed by everything. Our lunch choice was excellent as well.